Have you ever achieved exactly what you wanted, only to feel completely empty? Imagine you have reached the very summit of human achievement. You are the most famous writer on the planet. You have more money than you can ever spend. You have a massive estate in the Russian countryside, a loving family, and your health is perfect. In the late 1870s, this was the life of Leo Tolstoy. But in the middle of this golden existence, something went horribly wrong. It started as a tiny whisper. A small, nagging itch at the back of his mind. It was the word, why? Why should I write another book? Why should I care about my land? Why should I even love my children if we are all just traveling toward a dark, silent grave? Tolstoy was not just sad. He was experiencing a total existential collapse. He began to hide the ropes and the hunting rifles in his house because he was afraid of what he might do to himself. Today, we are going to walk through the darkest valley of a genius's mind to find the light that saved him. This is the story of how Leo Tolstoy looked into the eyes of death and finally learned how to live. To understand his pain, Tolstoy looked to an ancient Eastern fable. It is a story that haunts the soul. A traveler is wandering across a plain when suddenly, he is attacked by a wild beast. Terrified, he jumps into a dry well to escape. But as he falls, he sees a dragon at the bottom with its jaws wide open, waiting to swallow him whole. He cannot climb out because of the beast above, and he cannot drop down because of the dragon below. So, he grabs onto a thin branch of a bush growing from the side of the well and clings for his life. But then, he looks closer. 2 mice, one white and one black, are circling the base of that branch, slowly, rhythmically, gnawing it away. These mice are day and night. Every second that passes, the branch gets thinner. The fall is inevitable. While he hangs there, he sees a few drops of honey on the leaves. He reaches out his tongue and licks them. For a moment, the honey is sweet. In Tolstoy's life, the honey was his fame and his novels. But suddenly, the honey lost its taste. He couldn't enjoy the sweetness anymore because he could hear the branch snapping. He could only see the dragon waiting below. He realized that all of human life is just hanging over that well, waiting for the mice of time to finish their work. Tolstoy was a man of immense intellect, so he turned to science and philosophy to find a way out of the well. He thought, surely the smartest minds in history have an answer to this. He went to the scientists. He studied biology, chemistry, and physics. But science only gave him technical answers. Science could tell him how many atoms were in his body, or how the stars moved in the sky. But it couldn't tell him why he existed. Science said, you are a temporary arrangement of matter that will soon dissolve. This didn't help. It only made the dragon at the bottom of the well look bigger. Then he turned to the great philosophers. He read Socrates, Schopenhauer, and Solomon. But they were even more depressing. Socrates said that life is a prison and death is the release. Schopenhauer said that life is an evil mistake and that non-existence is better than existence. Tolstoy realized that the more educated a person was, the more miserable they seemed to be. He looked at his circle of wealthy, elite friends in Moscow and St. Petersburg. They were all just distracting themselves with wine, gossip, and vanity. They were all licking the honey while the branch was breaking. He realized that human reason, when pushed to its limit, only leads to one conclusion. That life is a cruel, meaningless joke. In his search, Tolstoy categorized the 4 ways people try to handle this existential horror. As you listen, ask yourself which one you have used. The first way is ignorance. This is the path of those who simply don't see the dragon. They live in the moment, focused on food, work, and small pleasures. They don't think about the future or the past. Tolstoy envied them, but he couldn't go back to being blind. The second way is Epicureanism. These people see the dragon, but they decide to eat as much honey as possible before the end. They indulge in luxury and physical pleasure to drown out the sound of the mice gnawing. But Tolstoy found this hollow. He knew the pleasure was a mask for despair. The third way is strength. These are the people who realize life is an evil joke and decide to end it immediately. They take control by choosing the moment of their death. Tolstoy saw this as the most logical response to a meaningless world, yet he found he didn't have the courage to do it. And finally, the fourth way is weakness. This is the path of those who know life is a dead end but continue to live anyway because they are too afraid or too tired to act. This was Tolstoy's life for years. He was a man who hated his life but was too weak to leave it. He was stuck in a gray, foggy limbo where nothing felt real. The breakthrough happened when Tolstoy walked out of his library and into the fields. He began to observe the Russian peasants, the poor, uneducated laborers who spent their lives in backbreaking toil. These people had every reason to be miserable. They were hungry, they were tired, and they had no honey to lick. Yet, they lived with a quiet, deep peace. When Tolstoy asked them about the meaning of life, they didn't talk about philosophy. They talked about God. They talked about service. They talked about the soul. Tolstoy realized that while the smart people were busy proving that life was impossible, the simple people were busy actually living it. He realized that reason, his precious logic, was actually a barrier. Reason can only analyze the finite. But life requires a connection to the infinite. Faith is not just a set of rules or a church building. Faith is the power that allows a human to live despite the dragon. It is the belief that your small, 80-year life is part of a much larger, eternal story. He saw that to find meaning, he had to stop living for Leo Tolstoy and start living for the infinite spirit that moves through all things. Tolstoy's solution was radical. He gave up his wealth. He started wearing peasant clothes. He began to advocate for nonviolence and universal love. He found that the more he gave away, the more he actually possessed. The lesson for us today is this. If you feel that empty why, scratching at your soul, it might be because you are trying to solve an infinite problem with finite things. Money, fame, and success are just drops of honey. They will never be enough to stop the dragon. But when you connect your life to something greater, to love, to service, and to the infinite, the well no longer feels like a trap. It becomes a passage. The mice are still gnawing. The dragon is still waiting. But you are no longer afraid. Because you have found a meaning that death cannot touch. Thank you for walking this path with us today. If you are searching for your own meaning, leave a comment below. Let's start a conversation. Don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the minds that changed the world. Until next time.